Hi, welcome to another episode of WCM's Outdoor Hospitality Update, and I'm Ben Quiggle, editor of Woodall's Campground magazine, and my co-host is Mike Gast, former vice president of communications at KOA and senior editor, right, of RVTravel.com?
Yeah, whatever Chuck wants to call me this week.
Whatever. You're gonna run that place by yourself here pretty soon, right?
Oh,
When Chuck
absolutely not.
retires?
I have to keep retirement. I've retired first. So.
Yeah, there we
All
go.
right. All right, and this week we're our guest is Larry Brownfield from Kampgrounds of America. I guess Larry, just tell us what you do at Kampgrounds of America, and then a little bit of history about how you got involved with KOA.
Okay. My current responsibilities, I'm the senior director of franchise development services. Franchise development services touches every part of the franchise system. I like to call it the life cycle. So it's bringing people in, whether it's through resale or converting a park or building a park, to operations, to working and operating the park, and then actually to exiting, to selling their park, to resale. So it's the full, our department touches all areas of franchise life. I actually got started in outdoor hospitality. Sound like an old man waxing poetic here, but in 2005, Carla, my wife, and I sold all our earthly possessions that we weren't sentimentally attached to, and we bought a truck and a fifth wheel camper, and we started work camping. We were in our 40s. I guess we were trailblazers. Nobody was really doing it back then in the mid 2000s, and we started work camping. And we work camped from Maine to Southern California, all the way across the country, all different sizes, shapes of areas, campgrounds, and then had the opportunity in late 2007, 2008 to join KOA as one of their business development consultants, which works with franchise, and still have those today, works with our franchisees and helping them grow their business. And then through the course of my time with KOA, I transitioned over into franchise sales, and then from franchise sales, now doing what I'm doing in a bit of a leadership position over a department. So glad to be here, I guess 14, 15 years, maybe. I don't know.
So Larry,
as long as Mike was, but
yeah, well, I just said I had a more flouncy title, I guess, but I think it was just so that people like Ben would take my calls.
There you go. There you go.
So Larry, the world has changed a lot since you've been at KOA, and tell us a little bit what life was like in the sales and conversions area back when you started, and what it's like now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's disruptive change. I mean, from where we are, and I get a bit about that. So when I first began doing franchise sales, and primarily focusing on conversions, because no one really was building campgrounds during that time, although we had an opportunity through a new construction franchise agreement, there was just not many takers, and we can kind of get into that if you want to follow up on that. But when I first got started, it's true conversion, meaning someone that had an independent campground that was in an open territory, wanted to brand their campground as a KOA so as to take advantage of the franchise benefits. And we rocked along with that. I mean, in the sense that we would convert, anywhere from 15 to 20 campgrounds a year on that method. And it was truly an opportunity to help people grow their business, take care of marketing. Back when I first got started, you're going to kind of chuckle. There was KOA at the time was the only campground software system out there that did real-time reservations. There was not even this thing called the cloud that existed back then. And so there were many people early on in my time with conversions that were taking advantage of the technology piece of real-time reservations. Then, of course, through the advent of things that changed over time. So it rocked along really pretty much as usual. Conversions, again, 15 to 20 a year, making some, people either buying a campground. Lots of times our sweet spot was someone that was a new owner that was coming into the business that really needed the support to operate their campgrounds. Or it was transitioning, people wanting to position their campground for sale. And at that time, branded parks, be it a KOA or a Jellystone, were selling more at the closing table than non-branded parks. So there was kind of the strategy that was working out. So that was the way it was previously. Now, there's these things called incremental change and disruptive change. After the recession, 2012 moving forward, outdoor hospitality really came alive, as it were, and it was no longer a cottage industry. I would say from probably 2015, 16 to today, it made the transition from being a mom and pop cottage industry, which was a sleeping giant that really, I would say the major players out there, the major capital players, really didn't recognize as something that's as profitable as it is. And as soon as there was a transition where people began to wake up on that, campground sales begin to, I would say, explode. It came into truly a seller's market. I'm kind of jumping fast, I realize. But about that same time, about 16, 17, there became really a strong interest in building new campgrounds, which I will tell you, previously I would talk people out of it. I mean, they would say they'd want to build a campground, and my first question would be, why? Just simply because I tell people, and anybody involved in construction knows that it can be fraught with danger. It's not an easy proposition. It's not for the faint of heart. And there were all these other great campgrounds on the market that could easily been bought, fixed up, and operated for high levels of profitability. So, but again, that changed, that dynamic changed, and there became a strong interest in building campgrounds. And just this past year, we've sold, I don't know if you want to jump in this to us now. I'm kind of taking this running with it. But this past year, we sold 13 new construction campground franchises. That's the most new construction franchise agreements sold in a single year in the history of KOA. I would say the modern history, before the franchise startup. So
Larry, we see this influx of new money coming into the campground business. Yeah. The existing campgrounds that have been owned even by mom and pops for quite a while are doing really well. What makes a campground franchise still relevant? Why would I need a campground franchise?
Oh, well, how long is this program? Because so the relevance of the franchise is based on support. We have 4 pillars that we build, campground or KOA franchises built on. And it has to do with the 4 pillars of the business, which relates to camper growth, registration, technical support, and the KOA family. And the idea of providing the things that people would have to operate their business. If I was an independent operator, I would have to a la carte many of these things, whether it be a website, whether it be an app, whether it be business development consulting, whether it be design services, whether it be marketing, all of those kinds of things that you have to take care of are put in a one-stop shop for KOA franchisees and other franchise organizations. And, same thing, whether you have a Subway or a independent sandwich shop, that brand provides support for that store or that business that you can't necessarily get easily. I'm not saying you can't get it, but can't get easily on your own. And so, that's the thing. We tell people all the time, you operate your business for your best business outcome, but you don't have to operate it in a vacuum by yourself. So you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. So, that's the short elevator speech. And, I can go on and on and on. about franchise benefits. But,
How does
do that at this point?
How does the, just not just from a franchise standpoint, but how does the KOA brand, there's a lot more competition now,
Oh, absolutely.
with Sun Outdoors, they just revealed their new name, new branding structure, I guess they have. I mean, you got Great Escapes, Thousand Trails. I mean, there's tons of them.
Sure.
But anyways, how do you, and a lot of those aren't franchise systems, but they're still brand names that I think, and KOA, I imagine, has to compete with some of those brand names. How does that in
How does
today's
it
modern
work?
world, I guess? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess one of the things that we have to look at is that there are three basic ways of operation in the context of. So you have an individual mom and pop shop. They're building their own brand. I tell people, I've had the opportunity to speak and teach in ARVIC and National School for Campground Management. And I've had opportunity throughout the last several years, probably the last 12, 13 years, interfacing with all different levels of campground operations. So, and one of the things we tell people is you build your own brand. If you're a mom and pop shop and you have a corner of the earth, you build that as your brand. That is you. That's who you are. That's the kind of product that you want to deliver. We tell people all the time that outdoor hospitality is not delivering sewer, water, and electric. They're delivering an experience. That's their product. And the kind of experience that you want to deliver is the backbone of your brand. KOA is connecting people to the great outdoors and each other. That's the backbone of our brand. That's our mission. That's what we want to do. And every campground, regardless, should have that sort of passion and that mission. But then there are only two camping franchise organizations in the US, and one of them is KOA and the other one is LSI. But that doesn't mean that there are only two brands out there. The other is the difference between affiliation and brand. There are lots of affiliate groups out there that, like Good Sam is an affiliate group.
Yeah.
But what's happening now, very much like you said, with Sun Outdoors, with Great Escapes, Thousand Trails falls under the ELS umbrella. But yes, you're having, I mean, you've got another one, you've got one that just popped up to recently in my experience, one called Spacious Skies. You've got RV Park It. You've got, just a numerous people realizing that the marketplace now is looking for differentiation and establishing differentiation. Now, I was asked last week in a similar interview, does this bother us? And the answer to the question is no. Competition makes us all better. And the idea is that we have the ability, we still think, just as each one of these brands has the ability to differentiate themselves into the consumer. And we have the opportunity to set apart the brand. We just so happen to have over 500 locations of our brand. We are all over North America. And of course, we're the most recognized brand in camping. So the idea is it's competition, but it's also right now, I truly believe as the water rises, all ships rise with it. Now, there's dynamic, disruptive change across the entire industry right now of the way that things are operating, the way that people are doing business. So campgrounds that have an anchor into developing strong customer and maintaining strong guest experience are going to be those brands that are successful. We run across people. I mean, I had a conversation recently with one that's planning on buying 80 campgrounds over the next several years. And my response to them was, good luck. One may have the opportunity to acquire property. Acquiring property is different than operating property. And many people that we find and that I run across in conversations are simply looking to acquire property, but they don't realize, and I guess, I don't know, you are one phone call away from cleaning toilets.
And I know what you're talking about, because I think we have a story up on Woodall's today about woodallscm.com about National Land Lease Corporation or company, and they want to invest $200 million and they just made an agreement with Blue Water to manage those resorts, because these investors that are coming in, they don't have some of them don't have a lot of hospitality experience, and it's important for them to find people to manage those parks when you're investing tons of capital, I guess, into the industry.
Yeah, that brings up another good point, Larry. What is there still room for a mom and pop operation?
Absolutely. And see, I was about to jump into that. So the thing is, there is absolutely room for an individual family to have a dream and own a campground and operate it. It's there. I still think there's play space in the marketplace, simply because one of the things that we have to understand is that many individuals okay, let me stop. I got a little ahead of myself there. The barrier to entry is your pocketbook. The people ask all the time, I'd love to have a campground. And then we start talking about how much does it cost? And so the barrier to entry into the marketplace is the ability to either get financing or to leverage the kind of capital that you need to own and operate a business. That not only follows with campgrounds, but that's just a basic principle of business. There is a tier currently still within our industry. I don't even know if I'll call it an industry, but in our play space, that is to the level that the corporate investor, the one that's doing multi-park investors, are not really interested in, simply because of the cost of purchase and the cost of operating is not feasible and to be profitable. That is also the play space that individuals, unless they have access to huge amounts of capital, can be invested in and work in. So there's a way to own and operate your business within the certain strata. When we first saw more investment money coming into the marketplace, the investment money started way at the top, the extremely expensive large properties. We've now seen that ooch down a bit. Ooch is a good Texas term. Ooch down a bit in the context of smaller and smaller investment outlay and capital. But again, as long as money's still, and I don't want to get into what the market's been doing since the first of the year, but as long as money is still the cost of capital is still fairly inexpensive, individuals are still going to be able to purchase properties as long as the property cash flows and is bankable. Now, that was a long answer to a short question. Sorry.
So what happens? How does a small operator determine what his property is really worth? It used to have a pretty simple formula, with the 10-year and roll it all up there. It seems like people are much more willing to go way over what would traditionally be fair market value when they're making offers on these things. Is that just causing inflation in the pricing of campgrounds?
A campground is worth how much money is exchanged at the closing table. The issue is it all has to be bankable, and it does have to make sense to someone. And right now, there are key metrics: appraisal, what the appraiser thinks that the value is worth, what the bank thinks the value is worth, what kind of cash flow would support the debt. I mean, there's still some basic things in play. The thing that we've been seeing is the valuations go up and the anticipated returns go up. Now, an anticipated return is just that. It's an anticipated return. So the question out there, Mike, is there a bubble? Are people overbuying? But it goes back to the capital is there. So the capital comes from somewhere. It either comes from traditional financing through bankable things, or it comes through REITs, investment trusts, or it comes through angel investors. It comes through group holding. I mean, as long as the capital is there, the value is based upon what the person that's willing to spend the capital will do. It has changed the evaluation metrics, But all we do is we adapt that to see what's happening in the current market. So for example, our multipliers, we use cap rates, we use bankable terms on debt flow ratios. There's all those traditional terms are still in play. They've just been skewed toward what the market is currently doing. And that's the way it's been in real estate forever. I mean, it's one of those things that it fluctuates. It goes up and down. So I know I didn't really answer your question. How much, right? I've had somebody ask me, how much is my campground worth? I said, how much is somebody willing to give you for it? I mean, that's almost where we are at this point. Now, there are ways that we can make sensible predictions about that and sensible listings like that. And as we're trying to work with helping people list their KOAs for sale, we're not being, we're using a method that's tried and true and sound, but the evaluation metrics have changed. Cap rates have gone down, multipliers have gone up, but basic lending has not changed debt ratio. And is it bankable and does it cash flow? I mean, those are the things that, a campground that has negative cash flow usually doesn't sell well.
Yeah. So I've talked to a lot of campground owners over the last couple of years, and with this huge influx of new campers we had, obviously, new records being set on the manufacturing side, 600,000 plus units rolling out, and again next year. A lot of inexperienced new campers out there. Campground owners no longer have a day off. Tuesdays and Wednesdays are just as busy as the weekends typically. Right. It seems like they're having a lot less fun. Is owning a campground still fun?
It depends on who you ask. And how far are you away from the front desk, and how far are you away from the golf cart that's taking care of the customers day to day? So yes, I mean, one of the themes at KOA convention this year was everybody was glad. Everybody was happy with. I mean, KOA had a fantastic year. I don't know if you saw the report, but 33% up in revenue, registration revenue. Who does? I mean, that's amazing. So everybody did well, but everybody was extremely tired. The people I talked to are extremely tired. Yeah. And so, there's a lot of reasons for that, whether, staffing issues have plagued not only the campground industry, but everybody. And I haven't really run across anybody that didn't say they've had staffing issues last year. And again, it goes back to my comment a while ago. You're one phone call away from cleaning the toilets if you're operating a campground. And the thing is, it has to happen. One of the wide awake experiences that some of the folks that are experiencing that haven't come from outdoor hospitality, that maybe come from a different business that's pretty much standalone, where, turn the lights on, turn the lights off, collect the rent kind of deal, is the understanding that it's 24/7, 365 days a year. And you can run it seasonally, which is true. So, I mean, you might run it 180 of those days, but you're on all the time, and you're operating a small city. It's a small municipality. And so everything, Jim Rogers, we spoke about him before the show started. One of his famous things that he said over and over and over again, the campground's the last small town in America. Well, you're running the last small town in America. That means you're the dog catcher, you're the police, you're the mayor, you're the sanitation worker, you're everything that there is to that small city. And when you're having to do it all the time without a break, yeah, it gets tiring.
Well, you could say hi to Jim too, because I know he's watching. He's been texting me as you've been.
Hi, Jim. One of my favorite guys in all the world.
I think you mentioned it a little bit, just where these people are coming from that are investing. I mean, we've had a huge number of people coming from like the RV storage, and I've talked with some developers who are actually incorporating more of that into their developments too, sure, where they have an RV storage component. But I guess, what are you seeing as far as where these people are coming from and why they're interested in owning a park?
They're coming from everywhere that has money to spend. We do have, I've run across most recently many investors coming from the self-storage unit. Then we have some I'm working with some people now currently in development that are hotel developers that are coming from the hospitality industry that are now, instead of developing hotels, are developing campgrounds. We've got 3 of our new built, right now, well, I'll get into stats later, but we have a few of our new construction franchise agreements are hotel and built also in conjunction of hotel. What we're also seeing is campgrounds being built in conjunction with larger scale developments, whether that be like a part of the property being utilized for a strip center, the rest of it being utilized for an RV park. So they're not necessarily just a standalone. We do have an agreement working with someone who has a series of truck stops, different things like that. So it's one of those situations where I see the developers coming from similar, and then just off of, most recently, a developer that is doing subdivisions, developing homes, is now moving into the marketplace. Apartment complexes, it's coming from every which direction. And the conversation I had with someone that was a major developer for years in a transition market was saying that what they were doing was they were spending, and I don't want to get into a lot of weeds, but they were spending money at about a 5 cap rate, 4 to 5 cap rate, which that's certainly good if you're the seller. Let's just put it that way. And so what they did was they were realizing that they kind of leveled off at that 4 to 5% cap rate, that's where they were having to live. And they found out that they could buy campgrounds for 8 and 9. Yeah. And then all of a sudden it was like, it became a better use of their investment money. And then they're willing to drive the cap rate down. If they were used to paying 4 and 5, it wouldn't be anything for them to offer 6 or 7. And so, because in that context, in that overall view, they were still making money. And so you see the issue relates to the fact that it's people looking for opportunity to make investment to grow their profitability. And they're coming from all different directions. So that's kind of where we am. I don't know, it's a long answer to short question.
Well, I think when I was at the glamping show USA, and Larry, were you there at the glamping show?
No, I was not. We had one of my colleagues, Greg Dunnigan, was there.
But I think I heard here, I'm going to put this comment up on the screen from Diamond Lewis. She mentioned that she just purchased a 24-acre 50 RV site on a 5-acre lake. That sounds like a beautiful park. And she came from Airbnb, it looks like, what really opened their eyes to the travel industry. And I think when I was at the glamping industry show, I mean, that's where a lot of those types of people are coming from too, is the Airbnb. They owned a couple locations and they're like, hey, I'd really like to do a small park. So that's kind of interesting too. Yeah. Yeah. So, but she also commented, she said, Larry, with all of the newly assigned executive positions within KOA, are there any big announcements regarding a revamping of the brand that you can share or hint on? And by the way, good job recruiting, because it's a very impressive team. So go ahead.
Thank you, Diamond. I can't take any credit for recruiting except within my own department, which I've got a great team. One of the things that I'm not in a position to roll out any great announcements today. That could be a career decision I choose not to make at this point. But I will tell you that KOA, we're celebrating our 60th year, and 60 years is still growing. The thing with the company is that we've been very nimble. I'm excited about what's going on. Toby O'Rourke is doing a great job as our CEO and our president, taking us and really moving us forward. Our business model has changed over the last couple of years in the context of really doubling down on our branding efforts that got started. Jim is listening, got started under his leadership with our KOA Journeys, Holidays, and Resorts. We are fully branded as a campground system now. It took us a while to get there, but every one of our campgrounds that's on the books is in a brand position. All those that we're converting or building into a brand position. We're looking to explore beyond that. We've got some exciting opportunities that I'm sure you'll be hearing about within the next couple of years on some expansions that relates to possible brand positions. Again, one of the things that we're truly stoked about is our ability to move in the marketplace of development, actually new construction development, and the strides that have been made there, and how we're able to assist franchisees and people to literally get their campground built from the ground up. I don't know what all else was on Diamond's question there, but yeah, KOA's got a great team. We've made some most recent announcements is that Ann Emerson, who was involved with Good Sam for many years, and has actually worked in our franchise development department for a year as the person that was leading my marketing efforts, working with our friend Mike on assistance with some of that, is now my boss. So she's now the chief operations officer for franchise. Darren Usselman, who was in that position, has moved over to lead our Oak properties, which are our company owned and KOA assets, company owned properties. We have a very strong acquisitions team that's working just like every other acquisition team out there to identify and purchase properties, along with our franchise system has continued to grow. This last year, we had a 99% retention rate, which I'm extremely proud of. We're able to maintain 99% of our franchise that had the opportunity to renewed. So it keeps growing.
So Larry, you talked about the huge influx of new construction, and we've got a lot of new people, new money coming in, but there's so many more new campers. I read a lot for the RVer side of the equation, and they're frustrated. They can't get where they want to go. They can't. They don't like to plan a year and a half in advance for where they're going to be camping. And how fast, or is it even possible for the campground industry to build their way out of the inventory crunch we've got now?
That's the question, Mike. That's a tough one. I don't know. I can just tell you that the pace of building is extremely high, but as far, for example, KOA will be adding about 3,900 campsites to our inventory over the next year in a piece, kind of depending on how some of the build outs happen. We keep, moving forward on that. If you look, like Mike, for example, that the average KOA is about 125 sites. I mean, that's about average for us. So if you look at 3,900, that's adding 31 parks to the system, if you look at it from that standpoint. We've got a really good, what's called a royalty incentive program that we've rolled out to our franchisees for them to expand, to improve sites, to build new sites. And that program has taken off great. We have for some of your listeners that might not know, KOA has a dedicated department called Campground Facilities Design department that does nothing but designs parks, works with franchisees to redesign parks, that comes up with great products. Doug Mulvaney is the chair of the NFPA 1194, which is the national document that regulates campground construction. We also lead the way with design for electric vehicles. We rolled that out at convention on what we can do to address the needs of electric vehicles. But to answer your question, are we going to be able to build out of that? I think there's going to be some issues that you're going to find a lot of seasonal parks that are going to start reducing their amount of seasonal sites to meet the needs of the recreational camper. Because if you look at the pockets of the country, the majority of the campgrounds in those pockets of the country are campgrounds that are highly seasonal. And so we're seeing it, and many of those that we're working with that are talking of conversion are reducing their seasonal footprint so as to meet the recreational need. So I think if you're going to start constricting some of the seasonality and you're starting to build the sites, I don't know if we'll ever keep up with demand, because first of all, there are very few national and state park campgrounds being built. There are some that are being expanded. I know that we have some parks in Texas that are going to be expanded and in other parts, but the demand is high. And in doing so, I mean, the elephant in the room is the idea of how does independent operators work with Boondockers Welcome, Harvest Host, all those private land camping, site share type things. I mean, the thing is, the marketplace is going to disrupt and change based upon the need of the consumer. So, is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? I think it's just a thing right now.
And I don't know if you ever get away from having, especially when you're talking hot destinations, I don't think you're ever going to get away from having issues near like a Yellowstone or Yosemite, or, I mean, there's always going to be long-term planning in order to get a campground at those locations, I would imagine.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And just see what happened in national park visitation this year in the last 2 years. I mean, outdoor recreation is hot and it's not going away.
Yeah, definitely. So, cool stuff. So I mean, it's just amazing what the industry's been like. And you mentioned it before the show too, the recent report you guys just came out with yesterday afternoon. 70% of campers plan to camp again. 70% of those who camped last year plan to camp again this year, which is just amazing. And
Right.
I mean, it's just amazing how much it's grown over the last few years. So,
Well, and in that data, we see that if we drill down, the exact number escapes me, but there's a large percentage of that 70% say that not only are they going to camp again, they're going to camp more. And we anticipate new business continuing to grow. And that we track advanced reservations. Our advanced reservations for 2022, as compared to this time last year in 2021, are up over 50%.
That's
crazy. For 2022. And we're not even out of January yet.
Yeah, it's just crazy. And then just to think about the winter camping that's going on right now. We've been seeing a lot of stories on woodallscm.com about winter camping and how more people are starting to do that. So that's kind of interesting too, how that could potentially evolve, especially if we continue to see the millions of people that want to camp, come out every year. Maybe more people are willing to try winter camping.
Right.
I don't know if that's my thing. I do it in a tent. So I don't know if I'm ready to winter camp in a tent.
Yeah. You're a braver man than I if you winter camp in a tent.
So Larry, what's the timeline on if somebody came to you and said, "Hey, my wife and I are thinking about purchasing property and building a small 55 site campground."
Sure.
How long in reality does that usually take to get up and running?
Part of it depends on where you live and what the accessibility to planning and zoning. If the property is already available to have that type of business put on it, it's a whole lot easier. We're still looking at it from the time of signing a new construction franchise agreement to build out is, 2.5, maybe 3 years. By the time, we're talking from inception on. There's some that, we've had some that build out in a year. We had one that took 4 years to get built out. But currently right now, the biggest, back into some statistics, we've had 6 campgrounds be built and open since 2019. We currently have, as of yesterday, 4 actively under construction, which means we have right now 19 properties that are in some level of pending, either getting financing, getting permitting. They've not put a shovel in the ground yet. So, that's a good number. It's a good number, but it takes a while. Again, the governmental things, as far as making, getting to that conditional use permit, is sometimes a long, expensive path.
And we mentioned before the show again, you guys have had owners, developers that have taken 4, 5, 6 years to complete the process, right?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, from the time that it's all before it's just really up and running. Yeah, and again, it all depends. The biggest variable that I talk to people about is land usage. You know,
Yeah.
can you build your dream on that piece of dirt? Will the neighbors rise up against you? Can you get the kind of zoning that you need? How much is in wetlands? How much? I mean, there are some places that have to do archaeological impact studies and environmental impact studies and endangered species studies. And, you do all these studies and to get all the permitting done so at any point, the project could go away. There was one that I know that Mike and I were working together on in a particular area in Arizona, which everything was set to go, and the neighbors basically shut the whole thing down to the point that, I mean, it ended up being a community vote, which I thought was crazy. It went to a referendum, and the community voted whether this guy could build his campground.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, so there's a lot of things. That's why when I talked about telling people, tried to talk them out of it, buy an existing campground and turn it into your dream. Well, right now you can do both depending upon your level of income and patience.
Now, when you buy an existing park, you do have to be a little bit careful about, because any big changes and stuff still have to go typically before township
Sure.
boards and stuff,
Yeah.
right? So that's
Sure.
something you still have to look at, I guess.
Well, in some states, I mean, some states permit how many sites can be on a particular campground. I mean, you always have to follow the governing authority of that particular county or city or whatever is there. But yeah, it's not just a slam dunk that you can go out and do whatever you want to. But again, sometimes it's easier with an existing business than it is with turning dirt for the very first time.
It's amazing how many appeals we're seeing of decisions now too, where people will have boards will make decisions, or even councils, and then people will sue them, and it just flips the whole process, and everybody's kind of at a standstill while it goes through the courts. So that's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
We're seeing more of those too.
I mean, we personally had one that went through the court system, not KOA personally, but it's now a franchisee. It took several years, but finally he prevailed through the court system and is now going to be able to build his campground. But he didn't give up. He didn't give up.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's give a little pitch for you here, Larry. We've got, I know you've got a new website that we want people to visit if they're at all interested in learning about what it takes to become a KOA, or a campground in general. So,
Sure.
Talk a little bit about what that website offers.
Sure. Okay. So the website it's really simple. It's own a KOA.com. And on that website, and we're real proud of it, just got relaunched, and it talks about the entry points to becoming a KOA franchisee. So whether you're purchasing a KOA, because we're working now, we've reinvigorated our resale system. So we're actually having some franchisees list their campgrounds for sale. Then we also have the brand as a KOA. So the conversion piece of it is on there that talks about everything that takes place when we convert an independent park to a KOA. Then there's a tab that talks about the building of a campground, and it goes through how one does the new construction franchise agreement. And then we've actually added another tab for those that currently own a campground that might be interested in selling their campground to us. We are still actively looking and purchasing properties across the North America, US and Canada. And so that's actually something new on the website, where if you have interest in possibly selling your campground, you can send some information in there. And one of the things that I'm really excited about too is that we are providing a news collection site on there. So, for example, our latest annual report will be on there, but the fourth quarter reports on there. Any kind of, if I find a great article in Woodall's Campground Management, I put a link to it there. It's one of those places that I want to have people being able to come back to resource. The website is full of resource opportunities and will continue to grow as resource opportunities. We just completed at the end of the year last year a video with interviewing Doug Mulvaney on the process on how one builds a campground. That video will be available. We're going to be having some research papers that we're doing. We just finished the construction cost analysis on operating. We now have several campgrounds that are built from the dirt up, and now we're going to be able to help franchisees understand, do a little more pro forma understanding on what kind of revenue this was made in their first 5 years. There's going to be all kinds of resources available. So it's in its infant stage right now. It's pretty basic as far as it relates to franchise benefits, but we're going to grow the site into being a great resource for outdoor hospitality. As KOA is a great resource, and we don't mind sharing those things that help the whole system.
It probably ought to point out too that what comes along with the KOA franchise is that protected territory. I mean,
absolutely, yeah. So in the context of each franchise has its protected territory, meaning that so many, you couldn't put another KOA in a certain area. We protect our franchisees and operations across the country in their area, that they will be the only one there. We see, for example, I'm curious to see what's going to happen this year. But for example, the first year an independent park converts into a KOA, last year, which would be 20. Okay, this is 22, so 21. So this would be 2019. I got to back up because the FDD is a year behind. But the registration dollars grew 19% the first year of operations from being an independent park to a KOA. And then it aggregates to over 55% year over year related in the context of the 5-year contract. So we can show growth. One of the things you'll see on that website is a full understanding of franchise benefits. What do we bring to a franchisee to provide opportunities to help them run their business? So yeah, and also there's a number, an email, just happy to call and talk with anyone about questions that they might have to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we got a ton. Diamond messaged us more about her build out. Carrie was asking about political signage and banners, how to keep them out of campgrounds, but I don't know if that's your area of expertise, Larry. So that's
really not my area of expertise. I mean, we do have some policies with KOA on that, but that would be someone else to talk about how that works.
But I think people really liked what you had to say, Larry,
Thanks.
and I mean, it was very informative. So I think we're going to wrap up the show here. We don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you're extremely busy. I guess closing deals on parks, right, Larry?
Well, chasing people down, making sure everybody has the opportunity. My job now is to resource the team and making sure my team has all the resources they need to do whatever they need to do. And again, work with a great group of people. So that's what we do. And I'd love to come back sometime. If you'll have me, I'll come back.
Well, yeah, and I don't like to keep Mike away from the beach for too long. He gets kind of
antsy. There you go.
But the sunset. Yeah, but well, thanks everyone for tuning in, and we look forward to being back next week. I don't know what the date's going to be. We're in February. That's amazing that we're already going to be in February. So, but I guess we'll see everyone in February. So.
Thanks I appreciate the invitation. And again, I'm serious. I would welcome to come back if you would have me.
Okay. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.